Unraveled secrets of the French economy. It is no secret that France is one of the major economies in the world, ranked alongside states like the US, Japan, Germany, Italy, and the UK. It is easy to see why the country's financial position reflects an extended period of unprecedented economic expansion that lasted during much of the post-war period until the mid-1970s. This period was commonly described as trente glorieuses, meaning 30 years of glory. But as time jumped, the French economy has all jumped. That's why in today's video, we're going to tell you some secrets about the French economy. So make sure to watch this video till the end. Hello everyone, welcome to Country Economies Explained, a media channel that allows you to find out the reasons behind the economic situations of countries. So make sure to hit the thumbs up button and do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, press the bell icon to never miss an update from us. So let's start from the 90s. So, during the 1960s and 1970s, the gross domestic product, GDP, of France increased by an average of nearly 6% each year. But as a result of the oil crises of the 1970s, growth rates were considerably moderated, resulting in considerable increases in unemployment. By the end of the 1980s, however, the economy was once again experiencing strong growth. This trend continued, although at a more modest rate, into the 21st century. In the same post-war period, the economy changed a lot. Agricultural and industry were the main sectors of the economy in the 1950s, but tertiary, mainly service and administrative activities, have since become the main job creators. Further, while the heavily urbanized and industrialized regions of northern and northeastern France once contributed most to rapid development, this trend reversed in the 1980s, after these areas started losing jobs and populations. However, as of today, the majority of France's growth is located in regions that are in the south and, to a lesser extent, in the west. Although the private sector dominates, France has a well-established mixed economy. The country's national plans and nationalized industries reflect the actions taken by successive governments to protect and promote different kinds of economic activity. In the decades after World War II, the French economy was governed by a succession of national plans, each lasting about 4 to 5 years and outlining rather than imposing growth targets and development strategies. In France, the public sector first gained prominence in the period following World War II, when major banks such as the National Bank of Paris and Crédit Lyonnais, large industrial firms such as Renault, and services such as gas and electricity were nationalized. After that, little happened until 1982, when the socialist government nationalized everything. Consequently, more than 1/5 of industrial employment came from the enlarged public sector, and 4 out of 5 credit facilities were controlled by state-owned banks. After that period, successive right-wing and left-of-center governments handed over most enterprises to the private sector. State ownership is concentrated in defense, broadcasting, and transport. The post-1945 economic boom has brought with it a rise in living standards, reflected in the increasing number of families owning their home, about half, a reduction in the work week, 35 hours, and the number of vacation days taken by the French. The second indicator of improved living standards is the growth of home ownership, especially for such items as cars and computers. However, over time, consumption patterns have changed drastically. With rising incomes, more money has been spent on things like housing, transportation, health, and leisure. Taxes on workers' income are high to moderate, and indirect taxes like a value-added tax, VAT, are high. Overall, France has higher taxes and social security contributions than other European countries. In addition, France's extensive land area, where more than half is arable or pasture land, and another quarter is wooded, offers a wide range of farming and forestry opportunities. Moreover, the varied relief and soils of the country make this potential even stronger. In most places in France, there is plenty of rain, so water supply is usually not an issue. Additionally, the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea provide plenty of fish. But the agriculture industry employs only about 3% of the workforce and contributes about 2% to GDP. Still, France is the EU's top agricultural nation, accounting for more than 1/5 of its total output and producing more than 1/3 of its cereals, oilseeds, and wine. Additionally, France exports a lot of agricultural products, and about 1/8 of the country's visible exports are related to agriculture and foodstuffs. Almost 74 million acres, 30 million hectares of France's land is arable, required ploughing or tillage. followed by permanent grasslands, about 1/3, and permanent crops like wines and orchards, about 1/20th. And the majority of arable farming takes place in the north and west of the country, near the Paris Basin. Moreover, with more than 57,000 square miles, 148,000 square kilometers of woodlands, France is one of the most wooded countries in Europe, directly supporting 80,000 people. There's a lot of forest in the eastern part of the country, from Bordeaux to Luxembourg. Although France has extensive coastlines and lots of ports, the French fishing industry is still pretty small. Since the mid-1970s, the catches have averaged around 700,000 tons, and there aren't many fishermen left. There are problems with the industry because it's fragmented, boats are old and outdated, and it pollutes and overfishes. Now, most of the activity is concentrated in Boulogne, in Nord-Pas-de-Calais, and to a lesser extent in ports in Brittany, such as Concarneau, Lorient, and Les Guilvinich. France is also known for its aquaculture, with activity increasing along western France's coast. There are oyster beds mostly in Marennes or Oran, in the southwest. However, compared with its agricultural resources, the country has fewer energy resources. It's estimated that French coal reserves are 140 million tons, but French coal is expensive to mine and of lower quality than other coals. In 1958, coal production was about 60 million tons a year. 40 years later, it was less than 6 million tons, and in 2004, the last mine closed. In the past, imported coal supplemented domestic production. Now, there aren't a lot of other energy sources. The first natural gas was discovered in 1957 in southwestern France near Locq. After that, production boomed until reserves ran dry in 1978. As of the late 1990s, production was negligible, so imports primarily came from the North Sea, Norway and Holland, Algeria and Russia. There aren't many oil reserves in France, and production from wells in Aquitaine and the Paris Basin is limited. Although there are estimated to be 50,000 tons of recoverable uranium in the massive central, more than half of the annual consumption has to come from imports. However, France has fast-flowing rivers flowing out of its highlands, which are good for hydroelectricity. In the 1950s and 60s, production and employment both grew quickly due to the opening of new markets and rising incomes. But after the mid-1970s, manufacturing fell into decline as a result of reduced domestic demand and more intense foreign competition. Failing investments put a damper on modernization and further undermined France's competitiveness. However, recent years have seen investment and output increase, but at a slower rate, and less steadily than in the earlier part of the century. But industrial employment isn't improving. Moreover, there's an ever-increasing concentration of ownership because of the growth of big multinational groups, which also lets foreign markets influence French industry more. And even though the French financial sector employed less than 13% of the population in the early 21st century, it contributed roughly a third to the country's GDP. And additionally, France has some of the biggest banks in Europe and the second largest stock exchange on the continent. France has one of the biggest banking industries in West Europe. Its three main banks, Crédit Agricole, BNP Paribas, and Société Générale, rank among the top banks on the continent. Banking was traditionally tightly regulated by the government through the Banque de France. However, deregulation starting in the 1960s led to more branch banking, and legislation in 1984 further loosened control over banks, which made them more competitive and able to offer more services. Since then, banks have generally internationalized their activities thanks to the lifting of restrictions on capital movement within the EU in 1990. In general, employment has been declining in the banking industry, largely because of computerization and corporate restructuring. By the turn of the 21st century, the franc gave way to the euro as France's official currency. Moreover, France has a big industry with companies like AXA, CNP, and AGF, but it also has mutual benefit societies that administer pensions. Since deregulation, this industry has had massive reorganization with activities still centered in Paris, although several regional towns have developed as specialist centers with the presence of mutual societies. And additionally, since the late 20th century, France has had smaller stock exchanges at Lyon, Bordeaux, Lille, Marseille, Nancy, and Nantes. The share market exploded in the 1980s thanks to deregulation and modernization. Official brokers lost their monopoly on stock exchange transactions. Since then, France has become one of the most powerful economic powers in the entire world. And that's it for today's video. We hope you liked the video. Make sure to hit the thumbs up buttons and do not forget to subscribe to the channel for more such videos. And this is us signing off for now. We'll catch you in the next one. Until then, peace.